The rain-slicked streets of Seattle gleamed under the sodium lamps like veins of molten silver. And that's when I saw it. Jordan's fist clenched, his voice a low thunder that silenced the bar's chatter, as he shoved that smug investor against the wall for daring to whisper slurs about our marriage. "Touch him again," Jordan growled, his blue eyes like shattered ice, "and I'll end you." But hours later, in the dim glow of our bedroom, those same hands that could crush a man's windpipe trembled as they traced the curve of my spine, whispering apologies into my skin like sacred vows, his breath a fragile hymn against the storm he'd just unleashed. I never meant to fall for a man who carried shadows like armor. Jordan Hale, 35, with the build of a linebacker who'd traded tackles for boardrooms, had stormed in my life 3 years ago at a Pride afterparty in Capitol Hill, where the air hummed with bass drops and the scent of spilled craft beer. I was Alex Rivera, 32, a freelance graphic designer sketching logos for queer-owned startups. The kind of guy who blushed at compliments and collected vintage vinyl records of folk singers who'd hidden their loves in lyrics. We locked eyes across a crowded loft. Me nursing a gin and tonic, him nursing a grudge against the world. And when he crossed the room, parting the crowd like Moses at the Red Sea, I felt the pull of gravity shift. "Dance with me," he'd said, not asked, his voice rough as gravel, but his hand extended like an olive branch. That night, under strobe lights that painted us in fleeting rainbows, we kissed for the first time, and I tasted salt. His tears, or mine, I couldn't tell. Our wedding was a quiet affair 6 months later, in a tucked-away garden overlooking Puget Sound, with wildflowers tangled in our boutonnieres and vows exchanged under a pergola dripping with ivy. Jordan's family boycotted, calling it a phase, but mine showed up in full force. My Mexican-American mom, in her embroidered shawl, dabbing tears with a lace handkerchief, my dad clapping Jordan on the back a little too hard, as if testing the steel beneath the suit. "He's got fire," Dad said later, over plates of tamales and craft IPAs. "Just don't let it burn you, me, Joe." I laughed it off, but the embers were already flickering. Jordan's reputation preceded him like a storm cloud. The cutthroat lawyer who'd sunk competitors with surgical precision, the guy who'd once decked a homophobic bouncer outside a club in Belltown. Whispers followed us. "How does sweet Alex stand that brute?" From my artist friends at gallery openings. "Jordan Hale? He's poison in a pretty package," from colleagues at his firm who'd seen him eviscerate a witness on the stand. Yet behind our cedar-shingled craftsman home in Queen Inn, where the walls muffled the city's hum and the fireplace crackled like a lover's sigh, Jordan unraveled into something divine. He'd wake before dawn, slipping from our king-size bed with its threadbare quilt from estate sales to brew coffee strong enough to wake the dead. 2 mugs, one black for him, one laced with cinnamon for me, because he'd memorized my abuela's recipe from a single story I'd told. Mornings were for these rituals, his calloused fingers kneading dough for empanadas he'd burn half the time, cursing under his breath until I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind, pressing my cheek to the warmth of his back. And he'd go still, then melt, turning to kiss my temple with a softness that belied the man who negotiated multi-million-dollar mergers by noon. But the cracks started showing that autumn, when the leaves turned the Olympics blood red against the slate-gray sky. It began with a dinner party at our place. Nothing fancy, just potluck with a dozen friends from the local LGBT center, where I volunteered teaching digital art to queer youth. Jordan had been distant all week, buried in depositions for a case defending a trans client against workplace discrimination, his jaw set like it was carved from basalt. I chalked it up to stress, but when Marcus, my flamboyant best friend with a platinum buzz cut and a laugh like champagne bubbles, arrived with his boyfriend Theo, the air thickened. Marcus, ever the provocateur, sidled up to me in the kitchen while Jordan manned the grill out back. "Babe, spill. How do you sleep next to a hurricane?" he teased, popping a cherry tomato into his mouth, his eyes darting toward the window, where Jordan flipped burgers with mechanical precision. I forced a smile, stirring the paella. "He's not a hurricane, Mark. He's the eye. Calm where it counts." But Theo, quieter, with his wire-rimmed glasses and a psych degree from UW, lingered by the fridge, nursing a seltzer. "We've heard stories, Alex. That bar fight last month? Guy's got rage issues. You deserve gentle, not this. Intensity." His words landed like pebbles in a still pond, rippling out. By dessert, churros dusted with sugar that stuck to our fingers like guilty secrets. The table had turned into an intervention light. Sarah, the center's director, a no-nonsense dyke in her 40s with tattoos snaking up her arms, leaned forward. Jordan's brilliant at what he does, but off the clock? That shove at the fundraiser scared half the donors. We're worried for you, hon. Jordan, overhearing from the doorway with a tray of drinks balanced like a waiter's, froze. His knuckles whitened around a glass, and for a heartbeat, I saw the storm brew, lips pressed thin, eyes narrowing to slits. Worried, he echoed, voice deceptively even, setting the tray down with a clink that echoed like a gavel. Or just gossiping like the rest of this town? The room hushed, forks pausing midair. I reached for his hand under the table, squeezing, but he pulled away, standing abruptly. Enjoy the food. Alec worked hard on it. Then he was gone, retreating to his study, the door clicking shut like a vault. That night, after the guests trickled out with awkward hugs and promises to talk soon, I found him on the balcony, staring at the fairy lights twinkling across the sound like distant fireflies. Rain misted his shirt, plastering it to the ridges of his shoulders, and when I draped a blanket over him, he didn't flinch. They're right to worry, he murmured, voice raw as an open wound. I'm not safe, Alex. Not for you. I knelt before him, cupping his face, thumbs brushing the stubble that shadowed his jaw. You're the safest place I've ever been, I whispered, and pulled him down into a kiss that tasted of regret and rain, our bodies folding together on the wicker chaise like puzzle pieces finally aligned. But safety is a fragile illusion. An hour shattered 2 weeks later on a crisp November evening, when Jordan's past clawed its way back from the grave. I'd been at the studio, tweaking a mural for the center, a vibrant cascade of interlocking hearts in every shade of the spectrum, when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Tell your husband to watch his back. Some debts never die. Attached was a grainy photo. Jordan, younger, wilder, in a dive bar brawl, blood streaking his lip, eyes feral. My stomach twisted, but I shoved it down, racing home through sheets of rain that blurred the windshield like tears. He was in the kitchen when I burst in, sleeves rolled up, chopping onions with a ferocity that sent bits flying like shrapnel. Babe! His head snapped up, knife pausing mid-slice, and in that instant the mask slipped, fear raw and unguarded flickering in those blue depths. I showed him the photo, and he sagged against the counter, the blade clattering to the floor. It's him, Jordan said, voice a ghost. My brother. Thought I'd buried that chapter. Over mugs of chamomile, his hands shaking so badly he spilled half, he unraveled the thread. Growing up in a Rust Belt town outside Pittsburgh, father a drunk mill worker who'd belt them for breathing wrong, mother a shadow who faded into pills. Jordan, the protector, had taken the brunt, shielding his younger brother Kyle from fists and slurs alike. But Kyle spiraled, drugs, theft, a stint in juvie, and when Jordan fled west at 18 for college scholarships and escape, Kyle saw betrayal. He wrote me from prison last year, Jordan confessed, staring into his tea like it held answers. Said he'd come for what's mine. Thinks our life, you, is what he deserved. The weight of it pressed on us like the winter fog, rolling in off the bay, thickening every conversation, every touch. I wanted to shield him now, to be the calm in his storm, but doubt crept in like damp through cracks in the foundation. Friends noticed. Marcus cornered me at a poetry slam, his sequined vest catching the stage lights. Bruises aren't just skin deep, Alex. Leave before it's too late. Even my mom, visiting from Tacoma with her famous albondigas, pulled me aside in the guest room, her dark eyes searching mine. Me, Joe, love shouldn't make you flinch. I didn't flinch, that is, but the whispers echoed, amplifying the creak of floorboards at night when Jordan paced, unable to sleep. December brought a fragile truce, snow dusting the evergreens like powdered sugar on forgotten dreams. We escaped to a cabin in the Cascades, just us, a bottle of bourbon, and a stack of board games I'd packed to coax out his laughter. On the second night, snowbound by a blizzard that howled like banshees, we built a fort from blankets and pillows in front of the stone fireplace, the flames dancing shadows across his face as he read aloud from my favorite book, Giovanni's Room, Baldwin's words weaving through the air like smoke. You are my country, he murmured the line, then set the book aside, drawing me close. His hands, those hands the world feared, mapped my body with the reverence of a cartographer charting unclaimed shores, fingers lingering on the freckles across my collarbone, lips brushing the hollow of my throat. I don't deserve this, he breathed against my skin, but I silenced him with a kiss, deep and unyielding, our bodies entwining in the cocoon we'd made, sweat and sighs mingling with the scent of pine and embers. In that glow, he opened further. Stories of stolen moments in high school locker rooms, the terror of coming out to a father who equated love with weakness, the therapy sessions he'd hidden from me until now, unpacking the rage like a surgeon excising tumors. I lash out because it's all I know, he admitted, tracing circles on my palm. But with you, God, Alex, you make me want to learn gentleness. We made love slowly then, not the frantic passion of our early days, but something sacred, his thrusts measured, eyes locked on mine, whispering my name like a prayer. Afterward, curled against his chest, his heartbeat a steady drum beneath my ear, I felt the truth settle. The world saw the armor, but I knew the man beneath, flawed, fierce, and achingly tender. Yet the idyll ended with a thaw when Kyle's shadow lengthened. A brick through our living room window on New Year's Eve, etched with thief in jagged marker, shattered the glass in our fragile peace. Police reports, restraining orders. Jordan handled it with the cold efficiency of his profession, but at night he'd hold me too tight, murmuring, "I won't let him touch you," his voice a vow laced with venom. The community buzzed. Headlines in the local queer rag, local power couple targeted. Is Hale's past catching up? Friends distanced, invitations dried up, and I caught Jordan staring at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, fists balled, as if willing the monster away. January dragged like a hangover, gray skies mirroring the pallor of my skin from sleepless nights. I threw myself into work, designing a pride float that screamed defiance. Giant hearts pierced by thorns but blooming anyway. But my sketches bled frustration, lines too sharp, colors too bruised. Jordan tried. Surprise lunches at my studio, notes tucked into my sketchbook, "You're my masterpiece." But the strain showed in the hollows under his eyes, the way he'd startle at doorbells. One evening, after a particularly brutal day in court where he'd won but felt like losing, defending a kid against conversion therapy remnants, he came home hollowed out, collapsing onto the couch with a bottle of scotch. I knelt beside him, prying the glass away. "Talk to me," I pleaded, but he shook his head, eyes distant. "Can't. It'll break you." The fight ignited slow, then fierce, words hurled like accusations. "It already is," I shouted, tears hot on my cheeks. "You're shutting me out, Jordan. How can I love all of you if you hide the dark?" He surged up, towering, and for a heartbeat, fear flickered, the cruel husband they warn about, but he crumpled instead, sinking to his knees before me, forehead pressed to my stomach. "I'm terrified," he choked, sobs racking his frame, the man who'd faced down judges and bigots reduced to this vulnerability. I held him then, rocking us both on the rug, his tears soaking my shirt as he confessed the deepest scar. The night he'd fought his father, 16 and desperate, breaking ribs to save Kyle from a beating that left their mother catatonic. "I became a monster to stop one," he whispered. "And now it's in me." Dawn found us entwined, promises forged in the wreckage. Therapy together, boundaries redrawn, a pact to face the storm as one. Spring unfurled tentative, cherry blossoms painting the U District pink as hope's first blush. We attended a support group at the center, Jordan's hand clammy in mine the first night. But he spoke, voice steadying with each word, earning nods from survivors who'd worn similar armor. Marcus thawed, showing up with takeout and apologies. Even Sarah invited us to a fundraiser, her arm slung around Jordan's shoulders in solidarity. Kyle's threats tapered, a final letter arriving like a white flag. I was wrong. "Be happy, bro," postmarked from rehab in Spokane. But the real tempest brewed, not from without, but within. A case at Jordan's firm, pro bono for a queer asylum seeker, pitted him against a judge with ties to old money bigotry. The courtroom became a coliseum, Jordan's cross-examinations laced with a fury that bordered on unhinged, his closing argument a roar that left the gallery breathless. That night, victory sour in his mouth, he came home raging, pacing our kitchen, slamming cabinets, a vase shattering like his composure. "They almost deported her, Alex, for loving who she loves." I backed away instinctively, heart hammering, the whispers echoing. Cruel, dangerous. He saw it, the flinch, and halted, face crumpling. "No," he gasped, hands outstretched but not touching. "Not you. Never you." He fled to the balcony, and I followed, wrapping him from behind as rain wept anew. "You're fighting for us all," I murmured into his neck. but let me fight for you. We stood there, two silhouettes against the storm-lashed city, his body yielding to mine, breaths sinking like a duet. The climax crashed in June, Pride Month pulsing through Seattle like a heartbeat. The parade route thrummed with drums and cheers, floats groaning under glitter and grit. Our float at the vanguard, a phoenix rising from thorny vines, symbolizing love's resilient burn. Jordan and I rode the float, hands linked high, but midway down Broadway, chaos erupted. Counter-protesters, faces twisted in hate, hurling epithets and worse. Bottles, slurs, a phalanx of rage aimed at the heart of our joy. The crowd surged, screams piercing the music, and in the melee, I was yanked from the platform, tumbling into the crush, a boot connecting with my ribs as hands clawed at my shirt. Time fractured, pain blooming sharp. Then Jordan was there, a force of nature parting the sea of bodies, his roar primal as he shielded me, fists flying with precision born of nightmares. Get off him! One protester swung a signpost. Jordan dodged, countering with a hook that dropped the man cold. Security swarmed, but not before blood streaked Jordan's knuckles, his suit torn, eyes wild with the beast unchained. The parade halted, sirens wailing, and as medics checked my bruises, the crowd, our community, watched. Whispers turned to murmurs. Did you see? He saved Alex. Cameras flashed, capturing not the villain, but the guardian. In the ER, stitches for his split lip, Jordan sat statue still beside my gurney, holding my hand like it was spun glass. I lost control, he said, voice ash. Scared you. I shook my head, wincing at the pull of bandages. You saved me. That's who you are. News spread like wildfire. Op-eds praising the fierce lawyer who fought for love, friends texting apologies and awe. Marcus arrived with flowers, Theo in tow, hugging Jordan awkwardly. We were wrong, man. You're a hero. Even my parents, watching from afar, called, proud of you both, Dad said, voice thick. Summer deepened, healing us layer by layer. We honeymooned late, in the San Juans, kayaking emerald inlets where orcas breached like affirmations. Evenings on the porch swing, Jordan's head in my lap as I read poetry, his fingers toying with my wedding band. I used to think strength was solitude. He confessed one dusk, fireflies winking like conspirators. You taught me it's sharing the load. Our love evolved, richer for the scars. Public dates where he held my hand without armor, private nights where his gentleness bloomed unchecked, tracing galaxies on my skin. By fall, as leaves gilded the evergreens once more, the world shifted. Jordan's firm promoted him, citing his unwavering advocacy. The center named a scholarship after us. But the true victory was quieter. A letter from Kyle, sober now, inviting reconciliation, not for debts, but for brothers. We met in a neutral cafe in Tacoma, tension thick as fog, but Jordan's hand found mine under the table, steady. Forgive me, Kyle asked, eyes mirrors of Jordan's. Only if you forgive yourself, Jordan replied, and in that grace, cycles broke. Today, 2 years on, as we stand on that same balcony where storms once raged, Jordan's arm around me. Watching fairies slice the sound, I know the truth etched in our story. Cruelty is often a cloak for the deepest kindness, worn by those who've known too much pain. The world may judge the surface, but love dives deeper, finding the gentle man beneath. And in his eyes, reflecting mine, I see our forever. Not perfect, but profoundly human, a testament that behind every closed door lies a heart worth unveiling.